This podcast is brought to you with limited interruption by Rudy Luther Toyota. Whether looking for an exciting brand new Toyota, a certified pre-owned vehicle, or getting quality routine maintenance and service for your vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota is the place to go. Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley. Subscribe to the podcast Beyond Politics. They host some of the biggest names and smartest minds. Beyond Politics is from a former Democratic congressman who helped ignite Barack Obama's campaign and a former campaign manager and political columnist. They go beyond the usual chatter on politics, news, science, and books. It's politics and everything beyond. On Beyond Politics, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Broadcasting live in the afternoons on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, and in the evenings on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. It is the Matt McNeil Show for your Thursday. Matt and Patrick here, guest-free, but your calls are always welcome. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. I will start off with, obviously, the one thing a lot of people are waiting for. Still no breaking news on the Trump trial. I'll get to a little bit about this, about some of the things that the jurors wanted to hear and kind of why it's important. And I think it bodes very poorly for Trump as well. I'll get into that a little bit later on this hour, but, they've been in deliberations for 11 hours. We talked about this with Stein yesterday. This is a 34 counts. You're not just rubber stamping them. If you're a decent jury, I've been on jury duty. Patrick, you were on jury duty too, right?
Yes, I was.
They explain the whole thing. I mean, you got to take it seriously. You can't just rubber stamp this stuff. And even if there was one person in that jury room that wanted to, most of the other people will never go with that. So they're doing their due diligence. How about we say it like that? So Stein and I both felt, unless it was like a world record deliberation, that it might come. I mean, if they give hint to the judge, we might have a verdict today. They might let them go later. My guess is that one way or the other tomorrow morning we're going to have a verdict, and we'll have to see. I mean, it depends. I mean, once again, there was a lot of pressure from conservative groups to tell people to outright lie in jury selection and get on the jury so you could basically disrupt the case. The fact that the question that they've been asking kind of tells me that they never did get someone on the case, but we'll have to see. But once again, and we will break in, and we get word there's a verdict coming. Yeah, obviously it's all hands on deck. We'll talk about that. So keep that in mind. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Patrick, when was the last time you watched the all-time classic, The Blues Brothers?
It's been a while.
Have you ever seen the extended version of it?
No, I have not, but I think if I wanted to watch it, that's probably the one I would go for.
It's on Amazon right now. If you've got Amazon, it's on Amazon Prime right now. They have the two. Make sure you're looking at the extended cut, unrated extended cut. That is, it's just a better movie, because there are some bits and pieces which they edited out of the theatrical release. I'm not sure. I didn't see it in the theaters back in 1980. I was too young. But, there are bits and pieces which add a lot of context to the movie, and I think actually make a better movie on the longer cut. But I'm going to say two things about that movie which I absolutely adore. One, first and foremost, that is an amazing love letter to the city of Chicago. It is absolutely just an amazing love letter to the city of Chicago. It's funny because just having been there a little more than a month ago, it's funny when you see a movie from that time in Chicago and you see the downtown as it is back then today. I mean, it's amazing the amount of growth that's happened in downtown Chicago and how it's changed dramatically. But yeah, it's just a love letter to Chicago and in what it's like to live in Chicago. I think it captures it fairly well, the community pretty well. I mean, in the same sense as I think that, to a point, Ferris Bueller's Day Off kind of captures that white suburban Chicago culture perfectly, absolutely perfectly. I think that overall it's just a good movie for Chicago fans. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, I think Wayne's World kind of fits that, kind of white suburbia as well.
I'm still, when Alice Cooper does that whole talk about Milwaukee, God, that nearly killed me. That's a good movie too. And I mean, there's a lot of them that they have done that are just, Chicago is just such a great photogenic city, and it's got its own unique character. But I mean, that's just the Blues Brothers. That is a big old smooch from Aykroyd and Belushi. The other thing is, and I'm going to say this, and I know this is going to get people at me. That could be the best musical movie ever made. I mean, and including dedicated musicals. Like Grease and everything like that. It might have the best music ever in any movie ever made, hands down. I mean, I'm sorry, Ray Charles and Johnny Lee Hooker and Aretha Franklin. And, gosh, the band themselves, it is Minnie the Moocher. Oh my gosh, Minnie the Moocher, which, by the way, if you see the extended cut, is actually a little bit longer of a song. It is actually works better. But, and I also, Carrie Fisher was, hey, don't at me, Return of the Jedi. Is she ever been prettier than she was in that movie? She was just gorgeous, and just you fall in love with her, even though she's got a flamethrower. That movie, I think it's the best musical movie ever made. Now, I'm also a big fan of the blues. I love the blues. I do. My dad got me into them, and I've really enjoyed. I've spent some time down in South Carolina, down in New Orleans. They get mad when you say it that way. And of course, Chicago, Minneapolis has got a really great blues culture. Paul Metza is up here, and I love that man dearly. He and I are friends. But I just, pound for pound, even the musicals, I can't think of one that's better than the Blues Brothers, just hands down. So if you want to see the extended cut, and once again, there's the one that we see all the time. That's on there too, but you want to see the unrated extended cut, that's on Amazon Prime. You want a love letter to Chicago with the best music ever in a musical, in a movie. There you go. My suggestion. You're welcome, America. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Our COVID guy, Dr. Joe, who is, by the way, freaking out, and I might be able to get to that a little bit later on about the whole avian bird flu thing. We'll get to that a little bit later on. He sent me a fantastic link from another guy who is a epidemiologist, health economist. He's worked at Harvard. It's Eric Feigl-Ding. And Eric Feigl-Ding is a very smart math guy. He also will weigh in on politics. And he did a thread, and I went not sure what day this was. Did this? This was yesterday. Yesterday morning, he did this thread, and I want to read through this because we have talked about the unlikely nature that the polling that you are seeing from, the New York Times, Rasmussen, Siena, all of them, that they're wrong. And I'm telling you right now, no, Donald Trump's not going to win 40% of the black vote. Donald Trump is not going to beat Biden in Generation Z voters by 20. No, those are the fact that those are out there and they're putting them out there. These polling places are putting them out there, even though it screams it's wrong. It's just something that I know that this is not wrong. And I talked about this last week before we went on the Memorial Day break, that the way the campaigns are acting, it's clear the Democrats and Biden are not nearly as concerned about these polls, if these polls were accurate, as they should be. And once again, these campaigns do much deeper, in-depth polling and diving when it comes to this stuff. They know this stuff, that what you see get reported in the news is nothing compared to what they're doing. On the same side, the Republicans clearly do not feel as if the way they're reacting is, it's not as if they are leading. They are reacting much more of they can tell they're behind. And there's a reason why Donald Trump is already screaming at the top of his lungs that the election was stolen. I think he's seeing that his numbers are pretty bad. That being said, I want to go through this once again. Eric Feigl-Dang, who put this out there, as a statistic epidemiologist, the amount of arrogant overconfidence I see in the reliability of polling data and machine learning AI is just insane. The first rule is that junk in equals junk out, and so much of the polling these days is junk data or overinterpreted data. Decision Desk headquarters in 538 try to do their best, but I worry about for their readers. Here are a few concerns I have. Relying on landline calls and cell phone pickups, such people are not generalizable, even with statistical adjustments. They're not. You really are looking at anyone that has a landline is skewing 70 and older that they're picking up. I got a landline. I never answer it. I use it basically when it's not, I have to fill out a phone number and I'm not sure if someone's going to spam me or send me stuff. That's why I use it. But I don't answer the landline. People that pick up a landline and answer it are skewing 70 and older. You cannot fix that through weighting statistics. You just can't. And once again, how are you even gauging Generation Z? Because they don't answer their cell phone, and they sure don't go up on Instagram and saying, who wants to spend 20 minutes talking about political issues? That you're not going to get them. Demographic statistical adjustments that polling firms aggregators use truly don't fix the above underlying problem of cell phone landlines. I can reweight the data on a theoretical demographic distribution, more or less minorities, gender balance, education balance, but that doesn't solve the issue of even such people on the phone. Surveys don't represent voters well. Registered voters polls are not all at all not the same as likely voter polls. Most registered voters don't vote in most elections. That's a fact. Just because someone they turn out doesn't mean they will vote in a predicted direction, given the wackiness of third-party disputers like RFK Jr. So who are likely voters then? We can't just rely on people who have voted before. Turnout shifts enormously between election cycles, and people die, and new voters enter the pool, and people get more engaged with voting over time. Plus, again, we have the issue of problem number 2 above in assuming turnout of voters equals turnout of call pickup poll respondents. Even if data is statistically reweighted, I run such models all the time and big data and small data. If the data is small, like under 2,000 samples, the data can easily explode in variance and uncertainty, which all these polls are. Also, the margin of error you see are completely wrong for tons of reasons. The generic error margin you see is usually from the basic binomial variance formula, which he lists here. It's about as oversimplified formula as you can use, kind of like doing physics for kindergartners compared to college-level physics. There's tons more sources of error and variance in polls for problems in the above previous mentioned issues. Almost none of these polling propagates, adds together the errors variance from 1 through 4 above in any reliable way. The true error from any poll is likely 3 times to 10 times larger than what you see in the plus or minus 3 that you hear about from news reports. So basically, if it's saying plus or minus 3, what you're looking at is plus or minus 9 to plus or minus 30, which means your variances are way, way off. All right, I'll tell you what, I got more on this in a second. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show on your Thursday. It's the Matt McNeil Show on your Thursday. By the way, where we're at right now, the judge is back on the bench in the Trump trial. He tells the parties at the time he's planning on excusing the jury today at 4:30. I'm not sure. I'm going to presume it did sound like he would check in with the jurors. There's been no bells alerting us to note from the jurors, so it basically. I think that he said, "Do you guys want to? Do you think you can work this through tonight, or are you going to need to come back tomorrow?" That's basically the only thing the judge can say, and they must have said no. We need to come back tomorrow. So once again, in less than 10 minutes, they're going to excuse the jury for the day. Deliberations will continue on your Friday. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. So let me get back to this exceptional post here from, once again, I like smart people. Smart people are smart. Eric Feigl-Dang, who, once again, I've gotten to know him through his work in the same realm of Dr. Joe Eastman, our our COVID modeling specialist. He's an epidemiologist. Well, he takes his considerably large brain and analytical ability and turns it towards polls and basically says, you know what, there's a lot of problems here. And his argument is junk in, junk out. You cannot make variances for what you are seeing out there because you're only catching an incredibly small portion of the population that's actually answering their phone. And once again, these polls, people have been critical of these polls for a while because you're talking about a poll in a country of 330 million people, and they talk to 2,000 people. It's almost impossible to weigh those polls correctly. But the fact is that they still have yet to figure out. Pollsters have no idea how to talk to millennials and Generation Z. They don't answer their phones. They don't have landlines. So they try internet polls and stuff like this, but those are wildly easy to corrupt. And as Eric says here, the true error rate is not plus or minus 3. It's probably 3 to 10 times that. He brings in an example. In the 2024 epic fail example, was from the Maryland primary for Senate. On the Democratic side, David Trone led in polls by 11 to 13% for most of the race on his main rival. He was basically up by 2.4 just days before the election day. However, when results were tabulated on election day, Angela Alsobrook won by a whopping 11.8%. That's not out of the margin of error. A gigantic polling miss of over 14% from the pre-E days on average, and a 24% polling miss from polls older than 1 week before E-Day. So polls that were taken 1 week beforehand were 24 points off what you saw on Election Day. 24 points! Now, what did the media say? Well, boy, she made up ground. No, your polls sucked. They were unreliable, and we could all see it. You just don't want it, and it's the stubbornness of the pollsters and the news media because they just don't know how else to do this. And frankly, they're lazy. They don't know how. They want to just get a poll in and sit there and talk about, let's talk about this poll. They have no game plan. If there's no poll there, it's like, I don't know how to do news anymore. Well, you got to go figure this out. Machine learning AI currently can't solve the above problems either. Machine learning also has the same junk in, junk out problem. With even less data, even error propagation is statistical uncertainty. All the above confirms the longstanding concerns about political polls. The polling is very much broken. It's been bad since 2016 and in 2020. It's even worse now in 2024 with telephone polls even less representative and even less reliable than ever. So next time you read that someone claims they're using advanced machine learning with their polls, remember, junk in, junk out. Polls and lawn signs don't vote. People vote. We should remind pundits and chest-thumping media websites about that. He goes also on to say, if for the people who are credential lane checking me, yes, I'm a statistician too. I have a doctoral minor in biostatistics from Harvard alongside my epidemiology doctorate and my nutrition doctorate. Thanks for playing. And by the way, I can only imagine the greasy tank top dude in rural Kansas in his trailer going, you know about polling. Oh, you've got 3 doctorates? Oh, okay. Well, I spent 5 minutes on Reddit, and I'm smarter than you. Based on an actual character. All righty. He also goes on to say this. The polls showing Trump in the lead, Biden trailing, are overly exaggerated. This is Simon WCD. I'm not exactly sure who this individual is. Simon Rosenberg. A political strategist and commentator. He puts out polls. Simon was right in 2022 when Republicans were all predicting a red wave, yet it fizzled in ours when a fewer dozen seats than pollsters had predicted. Excuse me. He's saying, once again, he's not saying he's wrong. He's saying he's right. These polls showing Trump in the lead are likely over-exaggerated. So supposedly Biden is down by a few swing states, but as people have pointed out, that the polling misses in 22 was huge. Biden would still win if the polling misses in 2024 were the same as they were in 2022. This is why polling can't be taken seriously. So basically, once again, if you went back to 2022, remember the red tsunami? Good times. Anywho, remember when they were screening this, and they were saying, "Oh well, that it's going to be a massive thing." The polls were all off, and they were all off by a certain amount. If you take the margins that those polls were off back then, and once again, the polling today is worse than it was in 2022. Biden is down. This is what the polls say today. Biden is down in Wisconsin by 1.1, 0.01 in 0.1 rather in Michigan, and 1.8 in Pennsylvania, according to 538. If the error is the same as in 22, which it's probably actually worse, but if it was the same, Biden would win by 1.2 in Wisconsin, 5.7 in Michigan, and 3.6 in Pennsylvania. Is the poll error going to be the same as 2020? Probably not, but it's not a stretch to see how Biden wins with the current polls. The polls had a pro-Democratic basis in 20, so they probably will again in 24. Is not a serious argument. They have an error. It should be either way. It's basically, this person is saying it's a close race, but, once again, if you just apply the errors that we saw back in 2022 to the election today, Biden wins all three of those states. The error, they're basically, once again, people are still coming at him and saying, oh, well, it's just their error biases are clearly a thing. A 14 to 25 point swing is not included in the error bias. The error bias is basically like 3 points. And as he said, we just had a poll that was off by 24 points from polls a week before the election. That's not within any freaking margin of error. That's a bad poll. And once again, what did the media outlets do that push this? Boy, oh boy, did she make a comeback. And at no point is there, boy, oh boy, maybe we should rethink what we're doing here. So, and once again, I have zero doubt. Once again, I see polls that say, Trump winning 40% of the black vote. Come on. And I've made this point before. For that to happen, Donald Trump won 6% of the black female vote in 2000. That means he would, or 2020 rather, in 2020. That means he would have to have 6 times as many votes from black women in 2024 just to make 40% somewhat feasible, which would, once again, would require that what? That black men would be supporting Donald Trump by 50%, which is also just not happening. So there you go. We'll take a break. Come on back. It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday. Broadcasting in the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk. Howdy, guys. AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota in the afternoon. It is the Matt McNeil Show on your Thursday. Nice to have you with us today. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. Okay, is anybody surprised argument here? The former producer of The Apprentice claims there's a recording of former President Donald Trump using a racial slur when he starred on the program. Bill Pruitt, a producer. Now, by the way, I want to back this up a little bit. I think it was Tom Arnold had said, no, he knew that there were, I can't remember exactly. So once again, do not take my word this, but I could have sworn that there was a story way back when Trump was running, or when he was running, I think in 2016, it was Tom Arnold of all people was making the argument that no, he had said some really atrocious things. And there was allegations, there was tape of this, that he had said these things. And nothing really ever came of it, although I could have sworn there was a story in like 2018 and 2019 where there was an agreement between the Trump White House and somebody from The Apprentice, and a large sum of money had transferred hands, and henceforth that those outtakes and stuff like that were not available. Once again, I'm trying to piece together multiple stories from multiple years that I can remember. So this has always been out there, and there have been these allegations from people that, oh yeah, we heard him say it. But there had not been anything that there's a definitive proof that this is on tape. Bill Pruitt, a producer of the first 2 seasons of the reality TV show that boosted Trump's billionaire image, wrote in a Slate piece published on Thursday that Trump indeed used the N-word in reference to a black contestant on the show. During an off-camera meeting in which the show's producers laid out the strengths and weaknesses of the show's contestants in order to help Trump decide who should win at the end of the first season, Pruitt recalled one of Trump's advisors praising a black contestant named Kwame Jackson. Yeah, Trump said, according to Pruitt, but I mean, would America buy a blank winning? Wow. Pruitt said this piece of the conversation was caught on tape because the show's producers recorded audio of all the off-camera briefings about contestants. He also wrote that he was recalling quoted conversations to the best of his ability and that they are not verbatim. He says he's coming forward now because his non-disclosure agreement related to the show just expired. Pruitt quotes Trump's spokesperson, Stephen Chung, denying Trump said the N-word during his time on The Apprentice. This is completely fabricated and a blank story, so he swears in this. It's already peddled in 2016. I don't think it was already peddled because, reminder, there were people that were saying this story was true, and what Trump was arguing is, we'll go talk to the producers. Well, the producers all have non-disclosure agreement. See, they're not backing up his story. So, yeah. Yeah. In response to a CNN commentator posting on social media that Trump used the N-word on Thursday, the same spokesperson said, "Prove it, B-word." Wow. God. He added, "You can't because it's fake and blank story, you dumbass, is peddling because Biden is hemorrhaging support from black Americans." Well, if there's a tape of it, I think we should find out where the tape is. Rumors that Trump used the slur have swirled for years. Omarosa Newman, another contestant on the show, who also served a brief stint in the Trump White House, claimed in 2018 that she had heard a tape of Trump saying the N-word, but a memoir published later that year, she wrote that someone else described the recording, not that she had heard it herself. The actor Tom Arnold has also made a similar claim. And that's I remember when Tom Arnold mentioned this. Other insiders from The Apprentice have said they weren't aware of the N-word tape and that such a recording existed. It would have been leaked by now. Jackson, for his part, told Salon in 2016 he believed racism had something to do with his not winning the first season of The Apprentice. You think? With that racist pig out there? Of course. By the way, and here's the thing is, would this tape change Trump voters' minds? No. 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 Even if the tape existed, well, I think the tape does exist. Even if the tape came to light and it was out there, you think that South Carolina, Senator Tim Scott's going to all of a sudden say, "Whoa, I don't want anything to do with this"? Of course not. He'll probably make some stupid argument. He's just talking street, yo. Exactly. Steve is in Minneapolis. Steve, thanks for holding. Welcome on into the show.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you taking my call. So I have it's been around since, it's called GIGO, G-I-G-O. And I thought you'd get a kick out of it because of what you have been talking about with regard to polling. And this is a term that was coined by computer programmers in the 1960s. And it's an acronym. GIGO stands for garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah. And just like Eric was writing there, it's junk in, junk out. If you don't have competent statistics going in, you're not going to get competent statistics coming out of it.
Exactly. Yeah. But I thought you would get a kick out of learning that this is a term that's been used from back in the day when computers were programmed with punch cards. This was this was the thing. It was a GIGO. What's that? Oh, garbage in, garbage out. Well, that makes sense. If you want to make a good pie, you don't use road apples.
Well, exactly, Steve. Thank you very much. I appreciate the phone call. Well, exactly. And it should be noted, okay, polling, I think, was for a while, 60s, 70s, into the 80s, fairly, I don't want to say it was reliable, but it wasn't as unreliable it is today. Polling really, and you can go back to Trump winning. He wasn't supposed to win. The polls didn't say he was going to win, and he did win. They clearly didn't capture anything then. They've been wildly off, and really since 2016, they have been comically off in 2018, 2020. 2022 was when things changed because clearly it was when they overturned Roe v. Wade and that happened. Yes.
Breaking news: we have a verdict in the Trump trial.
Ooh. Let me. Pardon me. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, yep. 5 new updates here. Let's see here. There's pardon me here. For goodness sakes. Apparently, there is a verdict here. They requested, the judges said they received a note from the jury, foreperson at 4:20. They have a verdict. Oh, this is pretty speedy. They request 30 minutes to fill out the forms. 30 minutes granted. Trump has been smiling just a minute ago, suddenly very serious after the judge's alert that there's a verdict. Get me my emotional support ketchup. I need my emotional support ketchup. All right, let me run through this here because I don't know if we'll have a verdict here before we get out to Chicago. Obviously, Patty Vasquez is on in the afternoons. I'm pretty sure you guys caught her show at this point. So, and Patty's an absolute gem. So make sure you're listening. If you're not listening to her show, you're just wrong. She's brilliant. So, but obviously, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Maddie happy. Oh, this could be a fun day. Oh, I'm going to prepare myself for the mega monosyllabic insults about to come my way. Day. Anyway, I was going to say, and thanks, Steve, for the update. Oh, gosh, I'm like a kid on Christmas Day. I mean, hey, I guess it could be non-guilty, but when I go through this in a second, you'll understand why it does not look good for Trump. Now, that all being said, if this tape from The Apprentice comes to light or he gets found guilty, most of his supporters aren't going to change their mind. They're just not. Because they are pathetic losers and basically they need him to validate them. And if they basically said, well, he's a horrible human being, then all of a sudden they realize, wow, when he said, I'm not the loser, I'm the winner, maybe he wasn't telling the truth. Ta-da! Okay. Anyway, so here is the deal yesterday. They specifically, now, first of all, I want to talk about the jury instructions, that there is actually a law in New York, and I'm going to guess this goes back to a case. 87, I thought I saw the case law on this. The judge's instructions cannot go to the jury in a written form. They can only be given verbally. The reason why was there was a case back in the 80s where the written instructions were confusing, and it ended up causing a bit of a... It ended up presenting a bit of a problem for this and overturned the case. Went to the New York Supreme Court, and basically the rule became you cannot give them written instructions. You only can give them verbal instructions. So when they came on back out and they wanted the verbal instructions, that wasn't some sort of court oversight. That's actually the state law in New York. All right, I want to make sure I clear that up. By the way, my phone is going freaking nuts with all the news alerts that are coming on about this. Oh. You know, okay, so question for you. If Eric Trump is sitting there and a life-size bottle of Heinz ketchup is sitting there, which one do you think that Trump wants to hug? I'm going with the ketchup. I'm sorry. I'm just, that seems like the obvious choice.
Especially if it's one of those plastic ones that has some give.
Yes. You notice that... his daughter's nowhere to be seen in this trial. Anyway, I'll just leave it there. Juries in the trial wanted to hear back 4 different things yesterday. 4 portions of the testimony. First of all, we, the jury, request David Pecker's testimony regarding phone conversation with Donald Trump while Pecker was in the investor meeting. Now, reminder, Michael Cohen was bad, but he also wasn't a great witness. The witnesses that really did damage and laid waste to a lot of Donald Trump were the other witnesses, included David Pecker, the head of the National Enquirer at that point. And it should be noted, this is why, and when Stein and I talked about this yesterday, this is why what had happened is basically that the defense team only on the closing arguments wanted only to talk about Michael Cohen, nothing else. Because the rest of these people, once again, it's the argument of, if you go on outside and you see the street is wet. You see that there's raindrops falling off the leaves, but it's not raining outside. It's not too hard to imagine that it did rain last night. You can say that. That is, you can make that presumption. It does not have to be ironclad evidence. You can make a guilty verdict by basically saying, well, it clearly rained even though you didn't see the rain, sort of thing. That is the whole point of this. The Trump trial, it lays out a very clear case. Is there a specific Donald Trump on tape saying, pay off Stormy Daniels for the crap sex I gave her? No. Unlike apparently some racial epithets are on tape. No, it doesn't. But because of all the testimony and the evidence, it kind of points in that direction. So Mr. Pecker, who took the stand first, provided testimony over several days that he laid the foundation for the prosecution's narrative throughout the rest of the trial. He spoke about the multiple private conversations he had with Trump and Mr. Cohen about helping the campaign. On the second and third days of testimony, Pecker discussed meeting of investors on June 6, 2016 involving the tabloid's parent company, American Media, that was interrupted by a phone call from Mr. Trump. Pecker said that he stepped away during the presentation to talk to Mr. Trump, suggested that he knew Karen McDougal, a Playboy model who claimed to have had sex with Mr. Trump during the 10-month affair starting in 2006, and was the time discussing selling the rights to her story to AMI. Karen is a nice girl, Mr. Trump said, according to Mr. Pecker. What do you think I should do? Pecker then he answered that Mr. Trump should buy Mrs. McDougal's story. AMI later paid her $150,000. The second one, David Pecker's testimony regarding the decision not to finalize the fund assignments to the McDougal life rights. Mr. Pecker testified about buying the life rights out to a story or a tip, saying that meant that the specific story could not be published anywhere else. At the same time, AMI was not obligated to print any of Mr. McDougal's story, he said. He also said AMI never had any intention of ever doing so. If her story appeared anywhere else, Mr. Pecker said he would have to pay back the $150,000. Mr. Pecker said he decided not to proceed with getting reimbursed by Mr. Trump for the deal with Ms. McDougal, which would have assigned her life rights to Mr. Trump and not the National Enquirer. He also asserted that he had structured the deal to include health columns written by Ms. McDougal and magazine covers featuring her in an effort to lend an air to her legitimacy to the deal and avoiding violating consumer finance law. So that was the second one. I'll read the other two. And once again, verdict in the Trump trial today. We'll hopefully have some more news here when we come back. It's the Matt McNeil Show. It's the Matt McNeil Show on your Thursday, and a historic day that one way or the other, it's going to live in history. Donald Trump, a verdict is in his sex with Stormy Daniels trial. I mean, paying off a porn star who for basically twitching near her. I don't know the whole thing. It doesn't sound like it was really pleasurable on both sides. You want to have a communication. Never mind. Anywho, there's a verdict in. Now, once again, I want to say this. We could get ready with the Charlie Brown sad music because it could become a not guilty verdict. I can tell you right now, it's not a hung jury because one way or the other, either the entire jury said he's not guilty or the entire jury said he's guilty. That there's no going to be hung jury on this. They've got a verdict. They're filling out the paperwork right now. If it is not guilty, I don't know what trial they did see, but once again, Jack Rice has been on with us from Court TV numerous times. You just do not know what the jury sees as the trial goes on. And your perception and their perception can be wildly different. The fact that I'm going through these things that they were asking about really points. I mean, even Trey Gowdy even said that these clarifications from the jury do not bode well for the defense. So I want to prepare everyone. Let's just prepare. I'll get back to this in a second, but I want to prepare everyone. I'll tell you what. Actually, let me redo that. Let me finish up with this about the 4 points that they wanted to hear from. They wanted to hear about Pecker's testimony during the Trump Tower meeting. Prosecutors argued the key meeting, the conspiracy to help Trump's campaign, took place at Trump Tower in Manhattan in August of 2015. Trump had announced his candidacy a few months earlier. Pecker said he was asked to attend by Michael Cohen, who joined them and Trump in Mr. Trump's office on the 26th floor. Where there, Mr. Trump and Mr. Cohen asked for how his magazines could help Trump's campaign. I said that I would do is I would run or publish positive stories about Trump, and I would publish negative stories about his opponents. I could even, and I said I would even be your eyes and ears. So that's not the fact they wanted clarification on that doesn't bode well for Trump. And then Michael Cohen's, they wanted to hear about Michael Cohen's in testimony regarding the Trump Tower meeting. He addressed the August 2015 meeting at Trump Tower with Mr. Trump and Mr. Pecker. He corroborated Mr. Pecker's testimony on the discussion that took place. He said the power of the inquirer was also a topic, that if we can place positive stories about Mr. Trump, would be beneficial. Mr. Cohen said that on the stand that if we could place negative stories in some of the other candidates, that would also be beneficial. So there was that. Once again, still, we're waiting for, we'll present its verdict soon. So it's still nothing there. Trump is now just sitting with his arms crossed, whispering with his lawyers. When he starts crying, I hope it doesn't smudge his bronzer. Oh, God, that'll be an embarrassing look. So I want to prep you all for what's going to happen. Because my point I said earlier, that regardless of whether the Apprentice tape actually comes to light and we actually hear him using the N-word, or he gets a guilty verdict, it's not going to change these people. And for years, you've heard, there's been allegations, but he's never been found guilty. Yeah, you're right. He hasn't. And then came E. Jean Carroll. And once again, even though that was a civil case, that judge clarified he was found in a civil court guilty of rape. And they said, well, that doesn't matter. So anyone can get guilty of a civil trial. I don't believe it. She's lying. And by the way, Donald Trump keeps losing millions of dollars to her. And apparently she's going to file another case against him to take more money from him because, he's an idiot. We already know what's going to happen. They've already laid the foundation of this when they said you can't possibly prosecute Donald Trump in New York or in D.C. because there's a bias there that the people that he abused have a tendency of not liking that. So they are saying, and I don't know if you remember this, there were Republicans out saying, you need to take this case to a rural judge in West Virginia that voted 92% for Republicans, and only there, if you get a guilty verdict, it will be a legit guilty verdict. But we already know the truth. Even if he did get that guilty verdict there, they'd say, bias, it doesn't matter, made up, persecution. So I want to prep you. If this goes the way I think it's going to go, then you're going to feel pretty happy. If you think for any second any of these coward Republicans are going to sit there and say, wow, God, I backed the guy. I backed the guy for years. I've carried his water for him. I said he was legit. And now, clearly I was wrong. He's a horrible, horrible human being. Yeah, there's not much I can do or say there. That to basically disparage you. That's you coming to the light. That's you seeing the reality of it. But that's not going to happen. They're basically political persecution. Because they can't. Once again, these people, Donald Trump brought together an unbelievably weird group of people that had never, ever, no one had even thought of approaching this group of people into a voter base. The losers. And that's the deplorables. And that's what they are. They're 20-time losers who constantly, they cannot ever look in the mirror and say, boy, I'm screwing up my life. Maybe I should fix my life. Nope, it was that one girl who did go on a date with me. There was one guy who got the promotion and I didn't get it. And it was all these things and I could have gone to college and I decided not to. And maybe I should go back. No, it wasn't that. I made the right calls. 20-time losers who basically can't get out of their own way. And Donald Trump, the Pied Piper of moronacy, basically came strolling on through. And he said, don't worry, losers. you're not the loser. They're the loser. And they will, it doesn't matter. He could wear a KKK hood, burn a cross. He could be wearing a Nazi outfit. He could blow away the face of a Girl Scout on the middle of Fifth Avenue, and they will still love him because he validates their invalidatable behavior. All right, big hour coming up next in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Chicago. We'll talk to you tomorrow about this. Talk to you later. Hour number 2 of the show, and a humdinger of one for you today, folks, as we have a verdict in the Donald Trump is a scum of the universe trial. I'm presuming it's going to be guilty. We do not know. And once again, we do not know. I can just tell you right now, the jury is filing in as we speak right now. According to the updates here from the New York Times, the jury is filing in. The jury, okay, Maggie Haberman, the one juror appeared to glance at Trump, the others didn't. All right. So, is he clutching a bottle of ketchup right now? Is his emotional support ketchup there? Because I think he's going to need it. Once again, we've had Jack Rice on the air multiple times. We do not know how a jury is going to go. This could easily be a not guilty verdict. I would be surprised at how the trial went in this, but once again, it's all in the eyes of the jury. The fact that it's so quick and the fact that the jury wanted the clarification on David Pecker's admitting that there was a conspiracy to bury stories, which you kind of, once again, a lot of people said David Pecker really hurt, his testimony really hurt Trump. So once again, the jury is back in. No one glanced at Trump. It's apparently insanely tense there. It's tense here. It's very tense here, baby. Oh yeah. Oh gosh. And can you believe I didn't know this was going to happen today. I didn't think this was going to be happening today. This is historic, folks. This is a president potentially being found guilty. In criminal court. Okay. Everybody conga! Yes! There we are. Guilty. Guilty on the first 8 counts. Counts 9 through 11. Guilty! Yes! We're congaing, baby! Dun, 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 dun. Ba-ba-da-da-da, guilty. Yes, I'm rubbing it into your faces because you've been such jerks about Donald Trump. And you know what is making me really good is he is a very guilty chump. Da-da-da, yes. Dun, 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 dun. First 8 counts, guilty. Oh, first time he's a felon. Oh, this is fantastic. Yes. Guilty on the first charge against him. Guilty on the second charge against him. Guilty on the third charge against him. Guilty. Well, yes. Keep this playing, man. How long does this go? How long does the song go?
3.5 minutes.
We'll just keep playing it. Just start it over again every this is a happy day, folks. Yes, conga, everybody. He's been found guilty on every single count. Scoreboard, mega. Da, 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 da. You've got a felon, but hey, guess he has something to talk with Royce White about. Oh. Although I don't think Royce White is a felon, but he's had some problems, legal issues. Oh, it's a glorious day. Oh, there isn't a safe bottle of ketchup in New York today. Bum 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 dun 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 dun. Guilty, 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 guilty. I guess you can't figure out what I'm talking about today, but there is a little bit of breaking news. That's right. All counts. Guilty. Guilty, 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 guilty. Are you really mad now? Are you really, really angry, Mega? Oh, no, not that. Oh, not, did I hurt your feelings? Oh, not that. Let me get my coffee mug is filled with Mega Tears coffee mug. Oh, you know, doesn't it feel good to have what you guys did for 4 years thrown back in your face? Delicious. Conga, baby. The dun, 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 dun. That's right. Guilty, the absolute biggest jackass politician in the history of mankind. He is convicted on all 34 counts of falsifying business records. The first American president to become a felon. Oh, my God, man. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, yeah, we're not stopping this music. Oh, please, hey, Secret Service, please keep me out of jail. Don't let them take me to the pokey. I don't want to be there. Well, then you shouldn't have done the pokey. Never mind. Oh, never mind. Oh, God. Dun, 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 dun. Matt, this is so beneath you. Why can't you read this like National Public Radio would? Because I'm not National Public Radio, you fools. Have you listened to this show? Ah! And once again, Matt McNeil, right once again. Yeah. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, yeah. And I didn't think I was going to get my steps in today. Dun, 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 dun. Fan-freaking-tastic. Scum of the earth removed from the pond. Dun, 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 bum, 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 bum. I can't tell you. I just, oh, yeah. We need to send Cliff a link if we can. We're gonna do our best to get Cliff Schecter on here to talk about this. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Oh, yes. This is, it was pointing this way. Yeah, we can kill the music. It was pointing this way. Just reading from, once again, the timeline of things. Justin Merchant tells the jurors they can discuss the case if they like, but do not have to. The choice is theirs. There's no longer barred from discussing the case. Justice Merchant thanks the alternative jurors. Todd Blanche, Tom's lawyer, looked back and smiles. The judge is thanking the jury. He tells them he admires and appreciates their hard work and praises them for theirs. All the jurors have individually confirmed their verdicts. Trump now looking at the jury. Each juror is polled and confirmed the decision of guilty on all counts. Trump is unresponsive, sitting back at the defense table. He is largely expressionless. A glum look on his face as guilty has been heard 34 times. Do you know how many RVs this is going to have to cost MAGA to get this overturned? At least like 20. I mean, they're going to have to be the good ones, too. Like the car that comes in out from the side. I mean, it's going to have to be. Guilty on all counts. Guilty on all counts. Donald Trump, the candidate for the Republican Party, a man who's embraced racism, bigotry, Nazism. He has been one of the worst human beings who ever traipse across this planet, a selfish narcissist of the nth degree. And a guy who's already, it's been a stellar year for the guy. He's already been found guilty in civil court of being a rapist. He's now a convicted felon. A convicted felon. And he's your guy there. He's all your guy. Republicans, he's your guy. This is your great white dope, man. I mean, dope. Let's go with dope. Dope. Orange. Although he loves loves the whole white power thing. Let's go with orange dope. This is truly, it's historic. I mean, of course you should be conga lining. And by the way, can I just say this? Shame on anyone who says you should be celebrating this. Please. Please. What you don't want is you don't want to see the world laugh at your God. You don't want the world to basically mock and ridicule you for still blindly standing by the felon, Donald Trump. The convicted felon that is Donald Trump. You guys just want to sit there and act as if that you have that we have emotions right now. I don't care. I don't care. Do you know how many pounds of jackass you were? How many pounds of jackass you were during the whole thing? Do you understand that? Unbelievable amount. An unbelievable amount. He's guilty. All charges. 34 charges. And if the first thing out of your mouth, and we already know the media will, well, you know, some people say that this was a biased trial. If this was a Democrat, it would be guilty, 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 unanimous decision, no doubt. I can't wait for the news media to write this and well, you know, the jury still is deliberating. No, it's not. It's still, some people think he's innocent. The jury didn't. He's guilty. He's a felon. We shouldn't rush to judgment. No, he's guilty. He's guilty. Boy, oh boy. I'll tell you what. I'm going to take a break right now. Let's see if we can dig up Cliff Schecter. Let's see if we can dig up Cliff Schecter at some point today, talk with him about this. And once again, we'll do some more conga lining a little bit later on, okay? 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday. I put out the Cliff signal. We'll have to see if we get Cliff Schecter on here. Really quick, since we do have a second here. Javier is in Minneapolis, wanted to chime in on the Donald Trump guilty on all charges today in court in New York. Welcome in, Javier.
How you doing, man? I don't know if congratulations is the right word or if I really don't know what to say here, but I feel like since Merrick Garland, it's been a long road, and at least at this point there feels like there's just a little bit, just a small amount of vindication. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
a
small amount. My gosh, man, dump that dump truck over here, man.
I'm just saying, like, I'm glad that I was listening to y'all when it went down and to hear the conga dance, and I felt like I was on the team. Like, I was just like, oh my gosh, like so many of us that listen to the station like all the time. It finally feels like looking around going, see, we told you.
Indeed. Javier, thank you very much. I appreciate the phone call. Oh yes, there it is. The fun happiness that is Matt McNeil. Oh God, I feel great. Latest news, and once again, Cliff Schecter is going to join us. He is getting set up as we speak here, because I think this surprised a lot of people how quickly this went. Sentencing is set now for July 11th at 10 a.m. The former president of the United States is going to be sentenced on July 11th at 10 a.m. That will put sentencing 4 days before the beginning of the Republican National Convention. I'm laughing for this reason. Because I'm laughing at what the spectacle that's going to be is in Milwaukee, where the bunch of guys going on, hey, we know he's a felon, but he's our felon. And, oh, God. Oh, my God. That is spectacular. There he is. We have Cliff Schecter, kind enough to join us. If you're not on Cliff's Edge on YouTube, you're just wrong. My guess is we're going to have some content added here before too long. Cliff, guilty on all 34 charges. Sentencing of the former president of the United States happens 4 days before the RNC on July 11th at 10 a.m.
It's a beautiful morning. I mean, I don't know what to do. I admit, I'm so glad I was wrong. I'm shocked. I did not have faith in our system, at least our legal system, because I figured all the ways he was getting away with manipulating it, from having, his own way, attacks on the judge to try to undermine him, his jury tampering with all of his little buddies, all his little friends like Matt Gaetz and the rest of them, coming down to going up to New York to bring him a blanket because it was really cold.
Oh,
as
yeah.
you may have heard in court, there was very chilly, and make him feel better while he was sleeping and farting. And even with all of that, even with all his attempts at jury tampering, all his attempts at undermining the judge in every other way, this man tried to test our law. He actually was found guilty of all charges. Hallelujah.
Lord Humongous himself is apparently he's pouty at this point. Going back to the what the jury wanted to hear again. Now, and I think there's 2 points that really stood out just in the last few days with the closing testimony and the closing arguments and the way that the prosecutor laid it out, that this is not just Michael Cohen. We've got all these people coming in here. They corroborate this story. They're basically saying this is what happened. And from the jury's perspective, it's the David Pecker testimony that really seemed to push it over the edge. That fact that the David Pecker testimony was, we had gotten into this arrangement to buy and kill these stories when they came up.
Right. The appropriately named David Pecker.
Yes.
In any case, but because he's still buds with Trump.
Yeah.
He just didn't want to go to prison. And so he went, so he wasn't one of these where there was some vindictiveness and there was fighting and there was any, undermining his credibility on this. It's pretty damn hard because, he's not somebody who has been at war with Trump. I think Hope Hicks probably helped too, with the fact that, again, somebody that was not at war with Trump. And so you had people corroborating this who were not people that they could claim, like they could try to do with Michael Cohen, that, he's just mad and blah, 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 blah. And so their lies were of less value to them. Pretty good. Well, I'm still kind of in a state of shock, I'll be honest with you.
I'm there.
Kind of.
I'm with you 100%. This is it's because this is, okay.
So if I say anything crazy, I apologize.
Oh, don't worry. You're swell, man. This is an amazing historic day. This is the first time an ex-president has been convicted as a felon. Donald Trump is a felon. Yeah. He has been found guilty of 34 charges, and we still have multiple other cases that are sitting out there. This is one he just could not stop in time, and let's face it, with 34 charges in a day and a half, this is a slam dunk. This is about as easy as a layup as you're going to see in a court case, and the jury clearly saw the evidence that Donald Trump was guilty.
Well, yeah. It was all right there.
Yeah.
Right. They had the testimony, of Stormy Daniels, the testimony of Michael Cohen. We already talked about others that could corroborate it from Trump's own team. They had nothing. Mm-hmm. Right. Again, I always love using that famous scene, appropriately, by the way, famous scene from The Untouchables with Robert De Niro playing Al Capone. So very appropriate. That was Robert De Niro. You have nothing. They had nothing. They just, all they could do is have very high IQ individuals like Lauren Boebert stand outside the courtroom, and talk about how great a guy he was, and that the jurors are really mean and the judge is really dumb and stuff like that. And she was able to do that because there was no performance of Beetlejuice that was going on at that time. So that was good. Had it been playing, it would have been hard for her to balance her schedule.
She rushed up there really quick when she found out there was a man named David Pecker there. Let's just be honest about it.
Yes, she did.
Beetlejuice. Oh, it's Lauren Boebert.
Beetlejuice, exactly.
All right, so
they've got a sequel coming out. You got David Pecker there. I don't know. It's going to get much better. She had to be there for that.
Just running through some notes here. Trump looked defeated as he walked up to the cameras in the reporter station outside the hallway. This is from the Times. This was a disgrace. This is a disgrace, Trump says. This is a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who is corrupt. Trump is now listing a litany of complaints he has made in the last several months. Justice Merchan was biased. Alvin Bragg brought his case. Was an effort to keep Trump out of the White House. He should have gotten a venue change because it's liberal-leaning Manhattan. The real verdict was going to be November 5th. Yeah, you're going to lose, by the way, in November. Trump is significantly less animated than he was as he rattles off the familiar lines. He closes by saying, "We will fight for our Constitution. This is long over." He spoke less than 3 minutes in total, did not answer shouted questions, and basically is running to hide with his emotional support.
Defense,
catch a bottle.
True, but in his defense, they were having a deal on the crispy wings at the KFC next door.
Oh,
so he did have somewhere to be.
It's all in one bowl.
I mean, some of that stuff, that's crispy thighs, extra crispy even.
Well, that's like foreplay for him. Okay, this is the sentencing for this. Gets weirder and weirder. The sentencing for Donald Trump, the former president of the United States, is 4 days before the RNC in Milwaukee. And we already know, I both have done this too long. Every Republican right now is writing out there, how dare this court find him guilty.
Two systems of system of justice and corrupt judge and biased blue Manhattan, and they'll come up with every ludicrous thing one could possibly imagine to say yes.
Well, how do you think this is? I mean, there's got to be some undercurrent against him having a felon on the stage. I know they're all cowards and they don't want to speak out against him until they retire. But there's got to be something that you've got a convicted felon now who is your nominee for president of the United States. And 4 days after he's sentenced. Yeah.
You'd think it would give more credence to the things that Liz Cheney that Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, folks like that have been saying. Particularly Liz Cheney, because she's such a big name in the Republican Party. But yeah, a whole group of folks like that who've been, Mitt Romney, others. Again, I don't know. It really should make it interesting because, again, Laura Trump has already taken over the RNC. His family. The way that these people bow down to him and who criticized him and called him a con man. People who are just absolutely pathetic, like Marco Rubio. I don't know if they can go back on that. I don't know if they have the courage to stand up to him. So I'm not sure who would. So, I think they're going to end up having a felon on stage. I don't really understand how this works. It is a weird situation we haven't had before. Usually it's the Secret Service who are keeping felons away from the president.
Yeah, that's usually.
But in this case, even though the man does have multiple personalities, it seems, they can't separate him physically. So I'm not sure what they can do about that.
So let's, if we can, let's step back and look at these other court cases. Now, once again, the Supreme Court's going to rule whether or not he can be held accountable at all. That doesn't take all of his cases off the table. It just takes the federal cases off the table because state cases still can get prosecuted. You have Georgia out there. More than likely, it sounds like Arizona now is going to probably come back with some sort of indictment.
Moving.
Yeah, some sort of indictment against Trump. What this really does show, and once again, I have zero doubt that the Supreme Court's going to get a tremendous amount of pressure right now from the right to basically find him, that you can't hold him accountable because it was so clear this was such an easy slam dunk of a choice when it comes to the January 6th trial, when it comes to the Mar-a-Lago documents trial. Those look like slam dunk trials. So there's going to be tremendous pressure to find him to where he can't be prosecuted. But at the same time,
they find that, then Biden should just go arrest the 6 of them the next day and replace them.
Well,
if that's the country they want, if that's what they believe our Constitution says, I guess that's their interpretation of it.
Well, Gorsuch. I mean, how many RVs is it going to take for Thomas? Thomas, Alito,
and
Gorsuch.
And Alito's wife has to put all the flags on top of the car, before they drive on over. So that's going to take a bit of time.
Well, what flag's flying at her house now? Can we go get into live update on what's at the Alito house?
Hopefully the white flag, because that would be great.
Well, it would be, but hey, that's maybe a 5-star review, flag. The Gorsuch is probably along with them. Here it comes down because I don't think, Chief Justice is going to go along with it, and then it comes down to Kavanaugh and Barrett, and I don't know, will it be a 5-4 ruling? I think it will. But I think you're going to come back. I think it's going to be close, but they're going to say you got to be able to hold people accountable.
Yes. I don't, again, and I have almost zero faith in our Supreme Court, but I think it maybe even loses 6-3. I mean, there's 3 that are just lost.
Yeah.
But I think it loses. It's just, I mean, we're not a democracy if that's the case. I mean, they're literally overthrowing our democracy with that decision if that's what they decide to do. So I don't see it. I mean, again, I've underestimated their idiocy before, but I do think on this one, it's not going to happen.
So one of the things we should mention, just for everyone joining us, Donald Trump guilty on all 34 charges in New York. Sentencing happens in mid-July. The thing that's interesting, so say that they do come out and say you can't prosecute him. Then it goes down to the Georgia and the Arizona case. What's interesting is where Georgia, the Republicans in that state have done everything in their power to slow down that case, and it might get slowed down enough to save him a little bit. The Arizona case, the more I keep reading about this, they really seem to be dotting I's, crossing T's, making a very airtight case, and for that eventual indictment of Trump in Arizona as well.
I mean, they found Rudy at his 80th birthday party, which is still. I just did a video on that we were going to release, but I think this right now will upend it, so we'll wait. Is still, of the list of humiliations from Borat to stuff dripping down the side of my head to, Four Seasons landscaping. I still think this is the top. is a guy singing "Happy Birthday" to you and then serving you papers. It's just after you've taunted the Attorney General, who, by the way, I knew in grad school and is terrific, Chris Mays. There, so fantastic.
Oh, Giuliani is just a never-ending cavalcade of joy, isn't he?
He really is. He's the joke that just keeps on giving.
Law enforcement, I'm so glad you're here. What's this? Okay.
Right. Happy birthday to here's your papers. So the fact that they've done that and they 18 indictments there, they really do seem to be moving forward, I think. Again, I don't know what they have, but I have a feeling that it's reaching its way towards Donnie Boy there too.
One final thing before I let you go, because I appreciate, by the way, Johnny on the spot coming on here. I do appreciate this.
I'm glad I was still at the office and I was able to do it. It's perfect.
One of the things I do want to mention too, though, is there's going to be a lot of pressure, I know, from weak-kneed Democrats to don't gloat on this, don't celebrate this. Screw that, man. This feels so damn good. We got a felony conviction against that large orange pile of crap. I got to tell you, I am going to enjoy this for weeks.
We should be dancing a jig all night, drinking whiskey. We should be celebrating like something out of the Old West, okay? Like in one of those saloon towns. Look, as far as I'm concerned, I feel like this is one where gloating, if done properly, not only is enjoyable, but also is absolutely necessary to send the repeated message again and again that he is a felon. Every one of our members of our Congress should be repeating it. Everybody in our members of the Senate, everybody in media who opinion columnists, people like me who either write opinion columnists, do videos, do whatever. Folks like you host radio shows. Everybody. Like this is the kind of thing that needs to be reinforced day in and day out. So those folks who, lean right or independent or whatever, who may not like Biden for A, B, C, and D, to decide if they are willing to walk inside a booth and vote for a felon. So yeah. I think that gloating is on the menu. It's going nowhere.
Gloat responsibly.
That's right. Gloat well, my friends. Gloat well.
Cliff Schecter, Cliff's Edge. Obviously, you're going to have more content on this, and this is a gift that keeps giving because we'll have content for weeks on this. But once again, Donald Trump is a convicted felon, and he's the likely nominee for the Republican Party for president in this election. So here we are, man.
It's a hell of a world we're living in here.
It is. Cliff, you're a genius. My show is better when you're on it. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time as always, man.
Thanks so much.
Take care. Cliff Schecter, we'll take a break. And by the way, if you're not on Cliff's Edge, you're just wrong. Go and visit that. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday. Oh, yeah. Yes, we can do it. Yes! Freaking yeah, man! Convict. Convict. I love basically the same people that display the dignity of a howler monkey exhibit with diarrhea, all of a sudden kind of getting at me. I was like, I can't believe you're celebrating this. Suck it. Come on, man. I'm sorry. You guys are the worst. You are sore winners. You're sore losers. You're just sore. You just always want to be the victim because you have to be the hero of your little freaking story. And you don't realize the only person that's being victimized is you by yourselves. You're sitting there and acting as if, this is a bridge too far. Oh, man, I not at all. He's your hero, man. He's your hero. Shortly after Trump's guilty verdict was read aloud, President Biden posted a fundraising appeal on X from his campaign about there's only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office, at the ballot box. Donate to our campaign today. The WinRed portal that was Donald Trump's campaign uses to process campaign donations went offline shortly after his guilty verdict. Rachel Maddow said on MSNBC that the jury deserves to be thanked for their efforts and warned that Trump and his allies would try to seed doubts about the guilty verdict, calling it a test of the rule of law for our country. Fox News pundits quickly denounced the verdict on the air. Oh, boo-boo kitty, I feel bad. Oh, not that. It's inconceivable in New York that anyone else other than Donald Trump could be indicted in this way. Have you heard about the Central Park fund? No, okay. They can't even get out of their own way at this point. Andy McCarthy, a legal analyst, Jeanine Pirro called the case riddled with errors. I'm sorry, that sounded a little too feminine for Jeanine Pirro. We'd have gone over in a cliff in America. Yeah, he was held guilty by a jury. Outside the courthouse, a protester held up a sign that read, "Trump convicted," after a jury found the president guilty. That's Johnny on the spot, talking about working quick there. Convicted on all counts to become America's first felon president. President Biden's campaign spokesman said Trump's conviction showed no one is above the law. There is still only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office. That's the ballot box, said Mike Tyler, the campaign communication director. Despite the guilty verdict, Biden campaign is reminding voters that if they want Trump out of the White House, they have to vote. And that's what it comes down to. You have to vote. It's what it comes down to. You've got to vote. We've learned, haven't we? We have to vote. The Biden campaign has responded. The White House so far has pretty much been mum. On CNN, Jake Tapper soberly read aloud each of the guilty counts. He called the verdict an unbelievable moment for American history. For those wondering about the political consequence of those 34 guilty verdicts, the short answer is nobody has any idea, period. Tucker Carlson. Okay, I'm not even going to read that. Why are you even, deranged man in his underpants on the street screams his thoughts. Come on, man. I don't need to hear that. Wow, I had a full show prep, too. Do you still have the conga lines music available, perchance there, Patrick?
I have to take a second.
See if you can dig that back up again. Let's get that going again, because I am feeling really, really good today. He's convicted. He's a felon. Donald Trump is a felon. He's a baby boy. He's a yes. We had to search the song. This is from the Bugs Bunny cartoons. They do the conga line. Dun, 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 dun. Feel free to conga in your car safely while you drive home, as you realize that Donald Trump has now been found guilty of 34 counts. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, 34. 34 counts. All guilty, guilty, guilty. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Yes. 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 Oh, I am spent. Oh, I am. Nah. Well, not really. Round 2, everybody conga. Dun, 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 dun. Yes, it's going to be. The story had a guy testifying named Pecker. Come on, it's going to be like this for a while. Oh, who wants to play some Super Mario? Hey! Dun 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 dun. Absolutely, everybody conga. All right, just because I do, there is. So I think keep it handy if you could, Patrick. We can put that down there. But keep that handy standing on by. We might need to play that again. We did have some actually fairly substantial news here in the state, in regards to problem here that I did want to definitely mention. Now, I do not want to take away from the shine and glory that is Donald Trump is a convicted felon. God, I want to have another kid and I want to name them that. My wife's at home going, what? No. Donald Trump is a convicted felon. All right. Well, we have talked about Senator Nicole Mitchell in the state here. And I just wanted to make sure I mentioned this because this is pretty substantial news before Guilty Boy over there in New York. I said when this story came to light, and we talked about Nicole Mitchell, and obviously a major fight between her stepmother and herself over the after the death of her father in regards to things that she felt she was owed. And now the stepmom saying, nope, not going to happen, whatever the case may be. We don't know what happened there. It doesn't sound like there was much guidance. And the first thing I said, and I'll say this again, and I want to make sure I hammer this home. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. Have a freaking will. Do not think things will just work out at the end. Make sure people know. You need to make sure people know the truth, okay? What you want to have happen. You do not leave this stuff up to chance because it ends. What Senator Nicole Mitchell is going through is what a lot of people have gone through. A lot of people have gone through. Have a will. Have it all spelled out. Let people know. Absolutely. And I said this before, that clearly she has some issues she needs to work out and she should step aside. And I said that before, and I still say that now. Now the session is over. You're also seeing other people chiming in on this. Governor Walz joined the DFL chairman Ken Martin in calling for the resignation of DFL State Senator Nicole Mitchell on Thursday, less than 2 weeks after the end of the session. Now that her constituents have had full representation through the end of the legislative session, it's time for her to resign and focus on the personal and legal challenges she faces, Martin said in a statement released at 6:17 a.m. In an interview before the Board of Pardons meeting, Walz said that Mitchell should step down and focus on her personal life. I think that's the right decision. Through her attorney, though, Bruce Ringstrom Jr., Mitchell issued a statement saying she doesn't intend to resign. Senator Mitchell has heard from many of her community who support and work and believe her right to due process under the law. Therefore, her criminal case is fully and finally adjudicated. Senator Mitchell will continue to serve her constituents as the duly elected state senator from District 47. Senate Majority Leader Aaron Murphy did not join Walz and Martin for calling for the resignation. She said in an interview that Mitchell is entitled to due process of criminal charges. She did say something later today, which is basically that if she was in the same position, she would resign in that case. My guess is that she does deserve her day in court. She does. She has a lot of unanswered questions. And right now, in case you're wondering, the right wing is desperately trying to get the body cam footage of her arrest from the police department up there. Because they feel as if it's something that they can use as a weapon against the entire DFL. I would, and once again, she has put forward multiple different statements. She has said multiple different things. She knows what's on those body cameras. She was there. I don't know if maybe that will be what it takes. I don't know if it does not go her way on the release of that, maybe that's what it takes, and then she'll step aside. But the reality is I'm going to say what I said weeks ago. I've seen enough. And once again, this is something. It's unfortunately in our modern society, it's relatable. The frustration after a loved one passes away of feeling like the legacy of your parents, your father, your mother, whatever the case may be, is being diluted, and you don't get what you thought you were going to get. Even stuff that at times your grandfather might have, or your father might have said, I want you to have this. Once again, unless it's written down, there's no way for you to guarantee that's going to happen. So I highly recommend that she steps aside, because she's clearly got to deal with this issue. I guess the question now is, how much is she willing to destroy the Minnesota DFL if the story goes against what she has been saying? How long will she jeopardize the entire party for if, once again, day in court, but if this goes the wrong way, how long will she try to win a game that's been over for a while? How about I say it like that? 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. We'll take a break, come on back, wrap up the show on, and once again, Donald Trump is a felon day here on AM 950. Enjoy. AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. I got to tell you the truth. I'm stunned. I am stunned. I knew that this was probably likely because, I read enough. I pay attention enough. Even though I knew the fact that everything was pointing towards this being a guilty verdict, I, even before we heard the guilty verdict, was very clear. This might come back not guilty across the board. I think that what is amazing right now is this realization that, holy crud, we actually held him accountable. And once again, he's never going to admit that he's guilty. He could, that's just who he is. His mom and dad raised him so poorly. And he ended up being this just absolutely miserable human being. Everything's about him. Everything is about, feeding his ego, stroking his id. And that's all it is. And here he is. Here he is now, finally, in a court of law. And once again, not a civil court, which once again, he's constantly dismissed that. He can't. You can tell everything you need to know about the E. Jean Carroll case. The fact that he just cannot keep his mouth shut. And he still is trying to win a game that was over months ago. And here he is now, criminal conviction. He's a convicted felon, not by one judge, not by somebody who has a bias. No, he's convicted by a jury. And they had their chance to put out their case, and they lost. And if anyone right now is doing a celebratory dance, it's Michael Cohen, who very clearly was the only, for a long time, looked like might be the only person held accountable for this. I was just watching, the movie with Steve Carell and Brad Pitt and Ryan Gosling that about the stock market crash. And I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But I was just watching that, and at the end of it, there's that, Gosling makes the point. He goes, all these people were held accountable. What are we talking about? One guy was held accountable. That was it. You had executive after corporate executive, CFO after CFO, knowingly torpedo the economy. And as the world was crashing and burning around them, their only concern was saving their Christmas bonuses by getting the W. Bush administration to give them a massive handout so they could all have their money they felt they were entitled to. after they had destroyed the banking industry, the mortgage industry, the insurance industry. They did this with intent. And it's frustrating as all get go that, once again, all these people were never held accountable. It's basic business 101. You walk in there, you grab the CFO, you said, show me how you knew that this was working right. And when they go, hamina, you grab them, put the cuffs on them, and take them downtown. That's how it's supposed to work. And yet nobody held them accountable. Not one person. Donald Trump, we know he's guilty. For God's sakes, there's boxes of evidence stacked in his bathroom in Mar-a-Lago. His own lawyers had to find, 4 months after the FBI raid, found more classified documents in his bedroom. And his own lawyers quickly turned them over. He's guilty as all get go. He's guilty. We have tape of him in Atlanta. We need you to find me some votes. We saw him on January 6th tell the crowd, go get him. We have all the evidence of the fraudulent electors in Wisconsin and in Michigan and in Arizona. We have state after state where the Trump campaign's fingerprints are all over it because it was the stupidest people in the world trying to pull off an incredibly complicated, scheme. We all know he's guilty. But there is this stunned, just feeling. I don't know if it's euphoria. I don't know if it's amazing. This is amazing. And no matter what, you Republicans, you can't just scream this away. And you will not scream this away. Donald Trump is a convicted felon. 34 counts, every one of them guilty. And he's your boy. Native Roots Radio is up next. Have a good one. A lot more on this tomorrow when we come back on that. Until then, see ya.